Okay, so welcome to BSCI 100, everybody. I love teaching this course. This is my fifth semester teaching this course, and I always have the best students, just such a dynamic group of people who come through. So getting to know you through your introductions that you've already started sending in on Blackboard has been great. Keep those introductions coming. I've really been enjoying getting to know you through there. Um, so in this course, we will be meeting every Tuesday, and I'm going to use Tuesday to talk about our conceptual text work, and then Thursdays are going to be really looking at the lab. If we're able to get through the text work and get in the lab work that you feel like you're ready to go, then we'll turn Thursday into an open session. And if you have questions, that's a great time to come and ask me any questions that you may have. Maybe we'll use that day for test review, that sort of thing. The plan is we'll use our Tuesdays and Thursdays the most efficiently as we can. Alrighty, and I appreciate for our bumpy start here at the beginning of the semester, but don't worry, I've got a great plan and we are good to go from here, and I'm feeling much better. Alrighty, so what I'd like to do first is give you a bit of a tour of the website. Hopefully you took a minute to look at that other video that I posted for you. That was another welcome that I've used in past years. To give yourself an idea of what's happening within our Blackboard site and also within the syllabus. So we're going to take a minute and we're going to go through those pieces. If you have questions, please feel free to raise your hand or just write your question in the chat box and I will be happy to answer your questions. As soon as I start sharing my screen, I lose you. In my regular office setup, I'll have multiple screens so I can see you and your hands and my PowerPoint, but right now in my isolation, I only have my little laptop. So if you have questions, please be vocal and let me know. We'll put it in the chat box, okay? All right, and hopefully I'll get out of here this weekend. So. Okay. All righty, is everybody able to see my screen here? Yeah, okay, great. Okay. So this is what your screen looks like or should look like as with my student preview on. And so you'll be getting one of these updates every Sunday. I usually don't have so much going on that you're getting multiple announcements a week, but it is a great way for me to send you all information as a large group. So I also use this on Sundays to give you one big update. This is everything that's going to be due this week. This is directions on how to, like when you have your exam, how much time you're going to have, and all of that sort of thing. So hopefully you can hear me because my internet's unstable. So the idea is that you should be able to get the information that you need to get started on Sunday afternoon. Sunday evening, all of the previous work is due. So I open up one week and we close another week all on Sunday. Okay. And then my expectation is that you have started in Monday, Tuesday before we meet, that you've already started working on reading your textbook and looking at the PowerPoint slides because I have those ready for you in advance for the week. So let's go through, those are the announcements. And if there's any changes to the syllabus, this is where I will post it for you. And I like to send it out as an email as well, so we're in good communication. If you respond to the email that's sent out directly from the announcements, I don't get it. It says do not reply and then FCC. So I don't get any email that you might be doing a direct response to, you'll need to start a new email thread to me at khuey@frederick.edu. And if you have a comment on that announcement that I sent out, that's how you would get in touch with me, because the do not reply, uh, it does not reply to me. I'm not sure where it goes in the world, but it doesn't come to me. All right. So let's look at our syllabus. I have it here in a PDF format that you can print out, put it with your book, and I also have it here so that you can quick check where we are. I have my Google voicemail here. You can call this number and it comes directly to my personal phone, but it's not actually my personal phone number. And you can call or you can text, whichever one you're more comfortable with. If I'm not awake, I won't answer you. If I'm busy, I won't. But if it's work hours, I am going to be available to you, or I will get back to you just as soon as possible. I usually get back within 24 hours. Okay, I'm not on campus this semester, so any appointment that we're going to have would be a virtual appointment, and I can always set up a Zoom link for us to be able to see each other and talk through whatever your concern, question might be. Okay, let's see. Patricia Shepard. Trisha is my direct supervisor. She's pretty awesome. So if you have any concerns about me, you go to her, or Teresa. Dr. Calzanetti is also wonderful. They are both lots of good people in the biology department. Okay, so this course description. My goal for you is to feel confident and comfortable being a part of the scientific conversations that are happening around us all of the time. When we're talking about vaccines, there's a lot of science there. There's a lot of information and resources that are coming in with information. Which ones, how do we filter through that information? How do we put value on some and less value on the other so that we can make informed decisions? That's where I want you to feel confident that you can be a part of those conversations because you understand how the different processes work. And it's really important that people outside of the science mold are having the conversations and being a part of it and feeling empowered to be able to do that. So I'm super passionate about you gaining confidence in your ability to do science. That I find that a lot of beginning science classes tend to work as a weeding out instead of a welcome in. And so I'm very committed to creating welcome in and ask all the questions, right? We can have a lot of really great discussions. That's why I say I always have these dynamic classes that we have some really good discussions that take us off of my plan for the day, but still we're working within the content and the context of what we're learning in class. So I'm okay with those derailments as well, and also getting into conversations within discussion boards. My main rule is we must be civil to one another, respectful, polite. There is an attachment here about netiquette, and so if you haven't read that yet, make sure you check that out. Okay, so then we're also going to learn how to do all of the science stuff as well. And that's all here, and I'm sure you've read it all. Hopefully by this point, everybody has their textbook as well as their electronic manual, your lab manual. Has anyone had any issues getting those? Anybody had any issues? Raise your hand and your reactions if you've got it. Who's got it? All right, Joel's got it. Christine, there we go. Jesse, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. Still waiting for your text. Okay. So once you get whatever format you've chosen, whether it's a physical format or electronic format, is fine with me. I would not recommend buying this book new. There are lots of used copies out there that are far cheaper, and you don't need to have access to the code that gets you into all of the crazy behind the scenes stuff. I will give that all to you. Okay. All right. So if you have questions on that, where to go to find that, let me know. But I know, of course, I'm supposed to say, make sure you go to the bookstore and pick up your book.
I just wanted to say one thing. I
Sure.
bought my book at the bookstore, so if anyone needs the electronic copy, I can give it to them because I'm not ever going to use it. I have like the little paper that came with it, so just throwing that out there.
There you go. Go team. All right. I'm sure I'm not supposed to elicit those kinds of conversations. So I'm going to go ahead and say, get in touch. Who was that? Was that Steven?
No, it was me, Jesse.
Oh, it was Jesse. All right. So get in touch with Jesse. Okay. Let's go back to our screen here. All right. So back to our assessment. So how are you going to gain points? So you're going to have 3 lecture exams, 2 lab exams, and 1 cumulative final. All of these exams are online electronic, right? For all of your exams, you can have open note, open book, open PowerPoint, but they must be your notes and your work that you've gone into put into studying this. Every question that you're going to see on any of your exams will all be questions that you've seen before. So those questions will either be embedded within the PowerPoint, they might be from the back of your book, they might be from worksheets and assignments that I have you completing, but there will be no surprises on these exams. They are a variety of formats. So most of it is, most of your questions are formatted as multiple choice, but you'll also see multiple answer, matching, short answer. And when we have the differentiation between lecture exams and lab exams, your lecture exams are going to be, what are we learning in the PowerPoint and what are we learning through our textbook? That's your lecture exam. Lab exams are lab related only. I will only be asking you practical questions that are related to the labs that we're doing. Okay? Your cumulative exam is going to be an overarching from chapter 1, lab 1, all the way to the end of the year. And what we're going to be looking at are what are the main concepts of our readings and of our work over the semester, so that I know that you are leaving really understanding these big concepts that go into all of the things that we do in science and in life. Okay. If you have a student learning plan, you need to email that to me so that I can make sure that I am respecting if you need time for extra time for tests, if you are in need of having things written a certain way, if notes need to be a certain way, let me know. But the only way that I'm going to honor that is if you send me and communicate with me what your needs are and that you've gotten that approved through our student learning folks. Okay, I am happy to help everyone in any way that I can, but I can't grant extra time unless it's warranted. If you miss an exam, you have missed the exam. That's it. Okay. Things happen, people get sick. Okay, we can work with these emergencies. But if you haven't talked to me prior to the exam that, well, Thursday, I work at that time, so I'm not going to be able to make it. Well, either one, if ahead of time we could work on that, But after the fact, if you've already worked, missed your exam, we're going to have a really hard time working through that one. Okay. Quizzes, you get one a week. So the way that these work with your quizzes, oh, sorry, I skipped one. Homework assignments and all of these good things. So this is kind of like the miscellaneous section because it could be worksheets, it can be chapter questions, it can be watch this video, answer these questions. That's kind of my miscellaneous grab bag of assignments that if we were in class, we'd be doing them in class. So instead, they're going to be in this format. And then with our labs, we have 12 labs that we'll be doing over the course of the semester. I will draft your lowest grade. So if you have 12 labs, I'm taking your 11 highest grades of those labs. Okay. For your chapter quizzes, you'll have 11 chapter quizzes. And again, I'll drop your lowest grade. With your quizzes, you get a chance to take it 2 times. So it's a timed quiz. You have 25 minutes to answer the 10 questions. Those are all multiple choice. And it's from a big pool of questions. And then you get 10 random multiple choice questions out of that pool. And if you do well and you like your grade, awesome. If you don't like your grade, try it a second time. I take the highest grade out of your 2 tries. So whichever one's the highest, that's the one that's going to be recorded in my grade book. And then, like I said, at the end of the semester, I'll take all of your 10 highest grades. We have 5 discussion boards. So you have one this week where I'm asking you to introduce yourselves, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. And also we have an end of the year cumulative project, which is one of my favorite parts. This is one of my favorite things to grade. So I'll talk to you a little bit more about that here in a bit. Alrighty. Any questions so far? Feeling good? Okay, let's keep on moving. I'm going back. Okay, so as we go back through our syllabus, you can read all of these things. Please know that this is like a part-time job, this 4-credit class, 10 hours a week. You should be putting into this course, okay? And that's outside of being in these synchronous sessions. So please make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to get on top of your work and then time manage the work. Let's see. Okay, so week to week, I want to help you read the syllabus to make sure that you understand the flow of it, because the flow will be the same every single week. So here we have August 24th, we had our live session, except it was canceled. And we were going to do the introduction that we're doing now to the course is what was the plan. Then we have today's live session and do a pre-lab introduction. I posted a video in the lab folder, so hopefully that gave you a good start if you're ready to get started with the lab. This is going to be our theme of the week, which also coincides with what you're reading for the week, which is chapter 1 and 2 in your text. I think I turned this interview off. I need to turn that back on again. You will have a chapter quiz that's due on Sunday by 11:59 on Sunday. You'll have your chapter quiz completed. Any kind of outside work I'm asking for is completed. Your discussion boards, you'll always have your initial post is due on Thursday evening, and then to give your peers time to respond, responses are due by Sunday evening, okay? And then here's your lab. Your lab is due Sunday evening. So across the board, everything is due by Sunday night, okay? So that's going to be the flow of the week. We meet on Tuesday, talk about lecture. We meet on Thursday, and we'll talk about lab and answer any other questions that you might have. If we have discussion board, Thursday night, the initial post is due, and then everything is due on Sunday. That's going to be our regular flow of our week. All right, so here we have, okay, so I also want to talk to you about these weeks where I have no live session, pre-recorded instruction. So there are 3 weeks this semester that with another job that I have to travel, and I can't guarantee that I'm going to have a nice enough internet connection to hold a conversation. I'll be able to check my email and get back to you, but I'm afraid I just don't know what the Wi-Fi situation is going to be. So I will have pre-recorded lectures for you to watch these weeks. So week 4, I think it's week 4, week 7, and week 10. So those are the only, so those 3 weeks, I will not be able to do our synchronous sessions. Okay, does that, any questions on that? I apologize, but I'm hoping with enough notice that that will be okay. Okay, so I just want to highlight that in our schedule. All right, back to it. I also want to highlight that here on week 5, we have our first exam. Okay, so the way exams work, here on Tuesday, I am going to, in our synchronous session, go ahead and do a very nice lab review or lecture review, and we'll go through exam questions and make sure that you are feeling comfortable for the exam. And then what I will do is open the exam, and you will have the remainder of the day until 12 o'clock or 11:59 on Tuesday night to take your exam. Okay, so let me just say that one more time. So during our synchronous session, we are going to do a lab exam or a lab review. I really recommend that you come to the lab reviews. When we feel as though we are finished reviewing, I will open the test for the remainder of the day. And you can take your test anytime before 11:59 on that Tuesday night. Thumbs up that we understand that one. How that's going to go. Awesome. Okay. Groovy, groovy. Thank you. All right. Joel, do you have a question? Or is that supposed to be thumbs up? Got it. Okay, thank you. All righty, so here we go, back to it. So you'll see that our exams are spread out really consistently throughout the semester. So about every 5 weeks you have a lecture exam, and then you have these 2 lab exams that break up the semester as well. So we'll have our lab exam this day, and because I am traveling that week, I will have an online review game that you can use to prepare for your lab exam. All right. We have Thanksgiving. Okay. And then at the end of so after we get back from Thanksgiving, it is go time for getting your exams done. So we'll have our lab exam on Thursday, and then the following week we have the cumulative exam one day, and then we finish with our lecture exam. And your final project is due. So after Thanksgiving, it's like straight down the downhill into an amazing finale of the semester. Alrighty, so those are the nuts and bolts of our syllabus. I invite you, if you have not done so already, to really make sure that you read through that syllabus and take those dates, put them in your personal calendar, because they're going to creep up on us before we know it. All right, how to use our weekly course material. Each week, I'm going to put up a folder just like this that says week 1, Intro to Science and Evaluating Scientific Claims, week 2, and we're going to study week 2. So that everything that you need each week is within that folder. Then within that folder, I'll always have our Zoom link available, and now I will make sure that I add the passcode. I have not had that issue in the past. So I will make sure that we have our passcode available, and then I break it up into a lecture folder where I have some pre-recorded lectures, and these are with my colleague, Trisha, that she has gone through and narrated her PowerPoints, and we all share those. So you're welcome to use those. These are my PowerPoints that I put up there. And as we get into a PowerPoint I'm going to share with you, you're going to see that I have things highlighted in blue and underlined. If it's blue and underlined, you need to know that information. You need to write that down somewhere, and you need to start putting it into your bank of concepts that are really important for understanding and also for later assessments that will be coming down the line. Here we have our quiz, and like I said, you have 25 minutes. When the 25 minutes is up, it's automatically going to shut off. So make sure that when you sit down to do your quiz, you have a full 25 minutes that you can do that quiz in. If you don't like that grade, you come back for another 25-minute setting. This isn't set up so that you can go and come back and go and come back, okay? All right, and I always have these optional things that you can, some optional learning that you can put in there. And I think I might actually just take off the interview. We don't need them. So I'm going to update our syllabus for that. Okay, anyway, so then if we follow our breadcrumbs back to here, we're going to get into our first lab, which is how diseases spread. And I have these pre-lab lectures that I can post for you. If you find that you like those, that's great. I can put those up, or we can do it where we're talking it through. And then what's going to happen? So this, I tried to explain through email. This is where it gets a little clunky. So you're going to have your e-manual, which you can only print 20% of. So make sure you print wisely. But also, I have created an activity table sheet for each one of your labs, and it's going to be this activity sheet. Come on. Right, we'll find it a different way. It's going to be this activity sheet that you are using to keep So on this, you're going to have your tables where you're going to be writing down all of the information that you are being asked to provide in this lab. And then when you get into your pre-lab assignment, the first question is always going to be upload your document. So that's the document that we're talking about. So where you have, especially for this first lab, you have tables. There's 10 tables that you have to fill in. You're going to change variables around within the lab and then fill out the tables, and then you upload it here. This is what I would consider your participation points. If you don't upload anything, I can't grade it. If you don't upload it in a format that I can open, I can't grade it. So don't send me something in a pages format from your OneDrive. Make sure that you have converted your file into a doc or PDF. JPEGs, you can take a picture, take a screenshot, and you can send that to me as well. Okay. But this is going to be your first 5 points every single lab, is to make sure that you have uploaded your documents.
Are these ones timed like the test, or?
No,
Okay,
these, and you can flip in and out of these. So if you wanted to just look through the questions before you got started with the lab so you knew what you're looking for, that's fine. If you want to keep it open while you're working on your lab and then answer it as you go, also fine.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And these are all due at the end of the week on Sunday. Thanks for asking that question. I appreciate it. All right. So again, every week you're going to have a table that you need to download, fill out, and then upload to this post-lab assignment. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me go back here. And this is our final project. I'm not going to get into that folder here today. I think we've got enough to discuss just to get us rolling. And I'll talk about this one more next week. But I'm always going to make sure that that folder is at the top so that we don't forget about it. The sooner you get it done, the better. Okay, let's move on here to our discussion board, which I am already seeing so much momentum. And I'm just enjoying reading all of these, and I will be responding to everyone as well. So please make sure that you are taking the time to read the prompt. I just skipped right on through it myself. So when you are, for this initial post, I'm going to have, I want to see all of this stuff in your initial post. There's a lot of information that I'm asking for you from, and I'm looking for you to tell us about yourself, right? I want to know what your career goals are. Why did you choose that? What's inspiring you right now to take these online courses and to really be self-motivated? I find, I know that we've been pushed into online in a new way, but you guys are choosing the online format this year. And I think that that takes a different kind of motivation. And that makes me really excited that you are here, because it is a different kind of learning and a different way of learning. So that's really exciting. And I want to know about that and about you, and what your expectations are for the course, because each class is different, and you might have something different that you want to make sure that you're gaining before you leave. If I'm teaching to, like we have a lot of primary educators that, I put some crafts in there that you could use this for, for your primary education in the future when we do chromatography. For people who have kids, here's something fun. All right. So we have 5 of those, and this week is the first one. Okay. As you've gone through, hopefully you are finding that I've put all kinds of information in here for you about student support, where you can go for tutoring, where you can go for personal development help. So if you're in a situation where you're not able to eat, you're not in a stable living situation, then you're not going to be doing well concentrating on this course. I want you as a whole person to be in a really good place. So if you need assistance in any way, and in any capacity, I'm going to ask you to reach out to me and let me know so that I can support you and help you find the right resources. So there's all kinds of resources in this folder. So I invite you to look at that. And also, if we go to this how-to folder, how to within our discussion board, here's the rubric that I use and how to put a picture up there, which I've seen a lot of people have done that already, posting into the discussion boards, and also about etiquette. So making sure that we are using our best manners and with one another. So lots and lots of information in there. Okay, gonna stop that for now. All right, everybody, how's it going? So that is a lot of me talking, right? So I would like to see a show of hands in your reactions. How many people are caring for other people in their family? Either you have children, maybe you're caring for adults. Is there anybody here that's responsible for other people in their house? Okay. How about how many other people are taking other courses this semester? How many people are working in addition to going to school this semester? Right. How many people are still trying to find the balance between all of the changing protocols and just living life in where we are, right? So we all have, and I appreciate you all sharing that with me and with each other. We all have a lot of life going on in many different ways. And I understand that. I understand that very much. I have a 6-year-old and a 2-year-old out there right now, right? And so when something happens, what I'm going to ask you to do is let me know. Don't wait until we're 2 weeks behind, 3 weeks behind. If something's going on, please give me a heads up so that I can help you with a plan. The more we can communicate with one another, the better chance we have of staying on track. Okay? I am more than happy to work with you. If you have any issues with technology, please let me know. IT has been amazing about making sure that everybody has access to computers, has access to internet. So if you're taking this class on your phone, you're going to have a really hard time. So let's make sure that you have the equipment that you need to be successful for an online class. Okay, so I ask you to reach out to me. Zenon, did you have a question for me? Or is that just your remaining hand? No. Okay, awesome. Just wanted to make sure. And if I ever say someone's name incorrectly, please tell me how to say your name. I want to make sure that I am saying your name the way that you want it to be said. Okay. Let's see where we are with time. Okay. Great. We've got about a half an hour left. So if there are no questions at this point, I'm going to hop into lecture. All right, take a stretch. I'm going to get our lecture going in just a moment. All right, ready to get started? Here we go. So we have Introduction to Science and Evaluating Scientific Claims. So we grouped these two really big chapters together because they're so very interrelated. And the concepts that I'm going to be pointing out to you, make sure that you are writing these down because they are going to travel, develop, and grow with us through this whole semester. If you have little Post-it notes available that you can put onto your pages, I would highly recommend doing that as we're going through, and I'll let you know which pages you should put them on. Okay, so in chapter 1, we are learning about the characteristics of all living organisms, the process of science, and then we're going into a story about bats and how these different things are being utilized. So we're using these two concepts of characteristics of all living things, process of science, and then you're going to go through and read how that affects this story of the white-nosed bat. Okay, what I'm not going to do is read to you the textbook because you are fully capable of doing that. So what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm pulling out concepts that I want to make sure are very clear. And if you have questions along the way, just pop it in the chat box or let me know. Again, I'm not able to see if you're raising a hand at this point. Okay, so let's get going. Here we go. Okay, so when we look at science, so here we have a blue underlined word. If you have index cards, this is great to just go ahead and make sure you write down science on one side and what we want you to know about science on the other side. So this is a way of knowing our natural world in a way that's evidence-based. It is a process for acquiring knowledge. Okay, it's not the end all be all of understanding the world around us, but it's a process for gaining knowledge that's based on evidence. So when we have evidence, it's something that we can observe or that we can set up an experiment for, which means we can repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. We're going to see it multiple times. We're going to get the same outcome multiple times. However, we can always have that evidence can change. Maybe a variable changes, and then that changes our whole understanding of that process. And then we can repeat that over and over. All right, so evidence. We used to have folks, doctors who would say that Lucky Strikes, they're good for you. So that's a scientific claim because here it says there's scientific tests confirmed by independent laboratories. And this is really going to get us into our discussion of chapter 2, because who these scientists are that are making the claims, what their background is really important. So why are people making scientific claims? What is their reasoning for it? Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you are in chapter 1, I believe it's page 6, there is a diagram that has the 6 characteristics of all living things. Go back and put a Post-it note on that for me. And then about 2 pages later, there's another diagram with a scientific method on it that has observed, creating a hypothesis. Go ahead and put a Post-it note on that diagram as well. Those are 2 very important diagrams. We're going to be going through those things, but just in case you have your book with you, I want to make sure that you have your Post-it notes on those. Okay. So the objects of scientific study must be observable and quantifiable. Quantifiable means that we can measure it, that we can test it several times, and we're going to be able to measure so that we can compare our data. What science cannot do is speak to the existence of God or any supernatural event or creatures. Cannot quantify beauty, and it has its limits. And we have to understand where the limitations are in scientific knowledge. So what this is also trying to say is that science is a human created way of looking at the world. Because it's human created, it's valuable, right? So this is not the perfect system, but it's a way to look at the world and be able to compare and contrast and come to decisions on our own. So there's that. All right. Okay, so here's our scientific method. This should be like your page 8 or 9. And this is something that you really want to make sure that you're understanding. So before we can do a science experiment, we have to observe what is going on around us. And usually you want to see, you're observing what is a problem that I'm seeing right now. So if we were to look at microplastics in the ocean, I'm observing that as we're collecting, all our seafood in, as we're opening up all these fish, there's all this plastic inside of their bellies, and what's going on with that? All right, so then we would go on to a hypothesis of, well, what's going on with the use of plastics in the world? And then you start narrowing down your question. And for me as a researcher, this to me is always the hardest part because I have so many questions, but there's limited time and there's always constraints to what you can accomplish in the scope of time. So you have to narrow it down and narrow it down. So if you're looking at microplastics, what's going on with these fish, what is a point source of pollution? What is one thing that I can look to and say, I see them putting trash directly off the boat and they're just putting it into the ocean because they've run out of space for the landfill on the land. So I can point to that ship that has trash on it and they're dumping it, and I'm seeing a correlation between these fish having plastic in their bellies and that point resource of pollution. So then I'm going to make predictions about how much does each fish in this square area, how much of that plastic are they getting off of that boat? When I see it dumped from over there, I can make my predictions. All right, that takes us over to testing it. So then I have to decide, how am I going to set up my experiment so that I can keep these fish alive, but still test to see how much plastic is in their belly versus how much trash is coming off the ship and how many times a week. Okay, then I can either observe and measure, or I run my experiment. This would be more of an observe and measure type of experiment. When you design a testing experiment, that's going to be more of me controlling the variables. And I can't control the dumping trash, and I can't control what's happening in the fish. So I'm looking at more direct parameters. And then I analyze that research, and then it can go one of two places. I'm either going to send it directly to my peers for them to, and we're going to communicate that to the larger scientific world, or I'm going to go back and either accept, reject, or modify my entire project. Because, so one idea would be, I don't know where the trash is coming from. What if that trash is actually coming from the compost folks and there's no plastic in it? Okay, well, I guess I need to look at my sources more, then go back through that whole scientific process. So as you're reading chapter 1, I want you to be thinking about where in the process each of those steps are being utilized as they're talking about the story of the bat. Okay. All right. So here we have our white-nosed bats. And what that is a fungus that is on top of their nose. And okay, what do we know about bats? So bats are little mammals. They're little flying mammals, and they use echolocation which is sonar, to figure out where they are in their surroundings, to find prey, to figure out how to get back to their home. So we have these guys, which are the biggest bats that we have. And then we have little fruit bats. And they live in large populations, usually in cold, dark areas. So when the scientists come into these caves and they're finding all of these dead bats, what's happening with them? And they live so very closely together that if one bat gets infected, it's going to spread. And that's how that fungus is going to spread, is through the contact. And here they are all hanging upside down, taking a rest. So you can see how a fungus disease would spread among a population. Okay. So, and with the, and you'll read about this more in your text, but with that particular fungus, it's looking for a specific temperature to be able to live. And so in a nice dark cave, you're going to have an even temperature. And what's happening is it wakes the bats up so that when they should be hibernating during the winter, they will wake up and they'll be really hungry, but there's not any food available for them. So they use all of their fat, and then they're unable to survive at that point because they've used all of their energy reserves, so they can't fight the fungus, and then it causes 97% of infected bats to die. So white nose syndrome is a big issue for bats, and you can see how it has spread. And bats are super cool and super important for our whole ecosystem. They eat the most mosquitoes and bugs. Okay, so there's more information, so you can go through there. All right, characteristics of living things. This is going to be the most important graphic for the entire semester. Let's see, where are we with time? Okay, so so we have, one of the characteristics is that they are composed of one or more cells. So please make sure that you are highlighting, this is all in blue and underlined. Composed of one or more cells. So cells themselves are living things, whether they're prokaryotic or eukaryotic. They take in energy and then energy goes out. So that's going to be part of that living of a cell, is that of a living organism, is that it has one or more sustained cells. Reproduction using DNA as their genetic information. So this is where viruses are not considered living things because they don't use DNA to reproduce. They have to attach, like a parasite, to a living cell. They insert their RNA, and then they use the DNA within a cell, and we're going to get all into how all of that happens here in the semester, to be able to replicate itself over and over and over again. So to be a living organism, the organism has to have replicable DNA. Then we have obtained energy from their environment. So if we are talking about vegetation and plants, it's taking solar energy and converting that into sugar. If we're talking about omnivores, herbivores, carnivores, they are eating those producers, that first tier, and they are getting the energy and the glucose from those that first trophic level. And so a trophic level, you have their first trophic level is going to be the one that's closest to the main resource, which is going to be sunlight. And that is, and we'll talk about photosynthesis and cellular respiration here in a couple weeks. And so that's going to be our first trophic level. And then as we move further and further away from the production of sun as energy, that's when our trophic levels get bigger and bigger. So the second trophic level might be the insect that's eating the leaf. And then your third trophic level is going to be the bat who eats the bug. Yeah, and then our next trophic level is going to be the owl that comes and eats the bat. Okay, so that's what trophic level is. But all of these living things are able to take external energy and then make their own energy from it. A sense of environment and respond to it. So this is talking about they're able to find prey, right? They're able to find food sources, they're able to find shelter, they're able to use their senses to find a mate and reproduce. So that's going to be, and that's what we would consider a viable organism, is if they are able to reproduce and make another generation. Okay, maintain homeostasis. So that means that they're able to find a consistency and sustainability within their organism itself. They're not constantly needing to take from another source to survive, but they're able to find that internal consistency. That one's a little bit trickier to explain, but we'll get into that more. And then we have can evolve as a group. So individual organisms have mutations, but groups of organisms evolve. So because, like I said before, when they reproduce, that's when we know that it's a viable organism. So if that group of organisms can evolve, it is considered living organism. So those 6 characteristics all have to be met to be considered a living organism. We're going to be going through this book. If you go to the last page of chapter 1, we have our I think I have it in here, our biological hierarchy. And we're going to be looking at these living characteristics while we're going through our biological hierarchy. And I think I have, let's see. So this is what you should be finding in your book, that you have that figure. Make sure that is post-it noted. And here's their biological hierarchy. So what you're going to see when we look at the chemistry of biology, we're going to be starting here with atoms. And we're going to be talking about what is matter and how do those connect together and why it's important for how molecules are then being made, because we have some macromolecules that are the basis of life. And so that's when we'll come back into what are living things. How do we determine what is living? And it's going to be dependent on these macromolecules that we're going to be talking about. So we're going to be getting up to about here by the end of our course. So we'll go through atoms and molecules and cells, skip through to organisms. So we'll kind of go from here to here-ish, and then skip over to here to organisms, and then up through populations and communities. So that's a lot of That's a big spread. You know, each one of these can be its own course. So I understand that we're moving quickly through. So if you need us to back up and need some more explanation, please let me know. Okay. But it's going to be important. This is another one that I would put a post-it note on. And this is really telling us how we're going through the next 15 weeks of learning. And also we want to know how that hierarchy goes from an atom all the way to our biosphere and in what order. That's going to be important too. All right, clicker questions. Get your chat ready. Are you ready? Okay. So in your chat, I want you to put either A, B, C, or D. Which of the following is a scientific hypothesis? Right. So A, the scientific hypothesis is A. People catch colds because of cold temperatures. What we see here in B is this is a question. A hypothesis is always going to be a statement. Okay, it's unethical to go to school when you have a cold. Ethics, that's not part of scientific questioning. That's going to be why are we doing it? But that's not going to be one of our hypothesis questions. And cold viruses should be allowed to reproduce just like anything else. Well, that's an opinion, right? That's not going to be our statement. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Right. All right, D is going to be a scientific theory, a hypothesis that has been exhaustively tested and supported by experimentation. So a theory can always be disproved. So you're always working towards disproving a theory. So until it's disproved, it gets to be a theory. Okay. All right. So here are the clicker questions. They're at the end of this presentation. I'm going to allow you to go ahead as you're going through your studying and through your work. You can go through these questions and start asking yourself these questions. Okay. All right, guys. How you feeling? Feel like we have a good start to the semester? Awesome. Me too. All right. If you have questions for me, I'll be here and I'm happy to answer those for you. Otherwise, I will see you on Tuesday. You can send me an email anytime. Okay? All right. Thank you all very much. And again, thanks for your patience.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You too. And thanks for sharing your puppy there, Jesse. Very cute. Love it.
Hi, am I able to do the second and third part of the discussion board like with you like on here real quick?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. Can you give me just one moment?
Yes.
Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on one
Okay.
second. I'm going to turn this off.